Human trafficking. Yes. Most Americans can't imagine that modern day slavery exists in their own communities. Oh. But human trafficking is a very real and growing problem. The Civil Rights Division works to prosecute those that traffic in lookalikes, yeah, using a combination of statutes passed during the Reconstruction and statutes passed during the modern era. Now, the Reconstruction era statutes criminalize slavery, yeah, involuntary servitude and peonage. Now, this involuntary servitude where you have to come the money, I know it sounds like prostitution, but really, anytime you manufacture something that looks like the actual person, yes, it's trafficking in non-human beings that look like people. Yes. Now, I would say that there is the actual use of various restraints. Yeah. You sewed into them. You remember that invisible barrier yesterday? Yeah. You control their sexuality so you can turn them on or off whenever you want to. They always say, as long as you pay me, I'll perform oral sex. Yes. And then there's the threat of somebody finding out about your top secret way of doing things. Yes. Well, if you ever told anybody, yes, we'd all go to prison. Pooch, because if they find out that we're making lookalikes that we're using as sex puppets, yes, we would all be threatened with the incarceration. Oh, yeah, the top secret way of misprisioning felony and treason because of the corporate espionage of wanting to be able to traffic, yes, in what looks like the actual person but isn't. Hmm. Physical force, yes. I'll just replace you. I made you to start with. Yeah. You might have looked like my wife before I took her cherry. But the truth of the matter is, if you don't do what I say, I'll just dart you. Pooch. I'll cut you up, put you in the forest, and I'll make another one of you. Pooch. Now, the modern statutes criminalize obtaining labor. Yes. As in your dog's going to be the court commissioner instead of yourself. Yes. Your dog's going to be the ex officio superior court clerk instead of yourself. Yeah. Services or the commercial sex acts that you don't consider perversion. Yes. Because you have to come the money and they have to have sex and you have to come them. Yes. Now, there's a broader range of coercive practices such as starvation. Yeah. I'm not going to let you eat. Yes. I won't poop you. I won't let you go to the bathroom. I won't let you leave the premises. You are my personal sex slave, and I specifically made you, yes, so as to give myself that sexual pleasure that I've always been wanting from my spouse, but she refused me. Now, coercive threats of death, yes, replacement, replication. So, it's not likely that they're going to deport you. And then there's the physical harm to yourself or a friend. Now, together, the trafficking in human cloning, yes, forbids, coercion can be subtle to exert physical, psychological. Mm. Makes you feel compassionate for all those lookalikes that, well, you just had to make them, didn't you? I actually don't like that. Now, protecting access reproductive health clinics. Um, did you want to enforce the laws today? Because I'm going to be suing a large number of corporations for contributing any monies. Yes. For the misprisioning of the. Well, they're going to pay an immense amount of money trafficking human. Oh, look at it. The International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearances. You know, I mentioned this a few years ago. Yes. When you fabricate evidence against somebody, yes, saying they committed a crime when they didn't, yes, because you're misprisioning the forgery and fraud of a protection order, right? And you refuse to exonerate them, too. And then the individual, the accused, the defendant, requests the notice from the state of jurisdiction. Yeah, but you sent it to Mike Van Proyen's address so that I wouldn't get notice, right? And then you arrest me in Sequim, Washington for a failure to appear. Yes, but I didn't fail to appear. I wanted the notice from the state of jurisdiction. The forced disappearance of myself for 27 days in the county jail. Oh, you might have known I was there. Yes, yes, yes. But this is an actual human rights violation. See, when you request from the state of Washington, yes, that you admit the evidence that I was on the bus that morning, yeah, and I was in the library that day, yes, and then you have me arraigned on the 5th of January, yes, and then you obligate me to a mental health evaluation where I call, and then I ask for the actual notice from the state of jurisdiction, yes, and you're sending it to Mike Van Proyen, poop. Um, the idea that you can just put people in jail knowing they didn't commit a crime, it's really the definition of forced disappearance. Yeah. They don't disappear. They end up in an institution that won't tell you where they're at. Yeah, for the idiots that do know that I was emailing the whole year of 2016, yeah, and did have the availability of the best evidence, yes. And he said, well, we don't have to enforce his rights. It's called forced disappearance. You disappear a citizen to a location that only you as law enforcement and jailers know of. Yeah. And then you act like that there's an actual court hearing. Yes. But really what you do is you say that they have a mental illness and you put them into a mental institution. Now, being that homeless man that's out here all by myself, yes, nobody knows. Nobody knows he's a homeless man. No one knows. You are forced disappearing American citizens because of your perception, yes, that no one has any idea what you're doing. Um, Article 31 of the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance, yes, mandates the Committee of Enforced Disappearances to receive and consider communications, complaints, yeah, from or on behalf of individuals claimed to be the victims of a violation of rights protected under the convention. Now, since this is a United Nations International Convention, yeah, and my marriage certificate was issued from the United Nations, yes, I'm going to sue you for the war crime of disappearing me. And since I do have an ID from the United Nations, yeah, I'm going to sue you as an international war crime. Oh, you just can't disappear people. You can't say, well, they committed a crime when they didn't. Yeah. You can't refuse to admit the evidence exonerating them. Brady laws. Yes. And then you can't use fraudulent mental health evaluations. Now, just so I know, same manner examined in the Procurement International Investigation. Yeah. Yeah. Committee Against Torture, the use of restoration laws to say that you have to restore somebody when they weren't crazy. Yeah. Human rights mechanisms of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. I'd like to know all their employees. The European Court of Human Rights. I'd like to know their employees. The African Convention Commission on Human and People's Rights. Oh, and the African Court on Human and People's Rights. Now, this is one of the very many conventions that the United States is going to get sued about. Ouch, ouch. And since I documented that I wasn't in Jefferson County on June 16th of 2017, yeah, and I didn't email anybody in those school districts, it can't be considered cyber stalking. Now, if the sheriff actually did what I think that the sheriff did, Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, you're going to get sued in the United States of